I always believed I had the perfect life. A loving husband, a bright little girl who adored us both, and a cozy home in a peaceful suburb of Oregon. Every evening, we'd gather around the fireplace, sip hot cocoa, and laugh about the smallest things. It was the kind of life I thought only existed in movies. But everything changed one cold December night. I had just put our daughter to bed when I caught a glimpse of someone outside, standing still near our front gate. A woman. Ragged clothes, tangled hair, eyes sunken yet strangely familiar. She didn't move, just stared. At our house. At me. I should have called the police. I should have been afraid. But something in me, something deep and unsettled, kept me frozen in place. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her face haunted me. There was something in the way she looked at us. A sadness. A knowing. The next morning, I told my husband. His reaction? He dropped his mug, shattering it across the floor. I didn't know it then, but the woman outside our gate wasn't just a stranger. She was the key to everything I didn't know about the man I had married. She kept coming back. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. Maybe she was just someone passing through, like many of the unhoused people you see in Portland, moving from block to block, invisible to the rest of the world. But by the third night, I knew it wasn't random. She was watching us. Watching me. Each time she stood in the same spot, just beyond the gate. Never close enough to trigger the motion lights, but close enough that I could see her through the blinds. Her eyes, they were fixed on our front door, like she belonged inside. I told my husband Mark that we needed to call someone. He shrugged it off, saying, "It's sad, but she'll move on. Don't get involved." But I saw the way he said it, the flicker of panic behind his calm, the way he couldn't meet my eyes. And then something happened that made my blood run cold. One night, while brushing her teeth, our daughter Lily looked out the window and said, "Mommy, that lady looks like me." I dropped the toothbrush. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. "She has my eyes," Lily said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "And her hair's like mine, just messier." I barely slept that night. The image of that woman replayed over and over in my mind. Could she really look like Lily? Was it just a child's imagination? The next morning, I waited until Mark left for work. I grabbed my phone, heart pounding, and stepped outside. The woman wasn't there, but I had seen her long enough the night before to remember her face. I searched nearby streets and found her huddled under an overpass 2 blocks away. She didn't notice me at first. She was hunched over, mumbling something to herself. When I raised my phone to take a photo, she looked up. Her eyes met mine. They were Lily's eyes. I snapped the picture and ran back home, hands trembling. I didn't know what I was doing, only that I needed to show Mark. I waited for him in the kitchen, gripping my phone like a weapon. When he walked in, I said nothing, just held up the photo. He froze, then his hands started to shake. The color drained from his face, and he backed into the wall like he'd seen a ghost. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. "Who is she?" I asked. Mark didn't answer. He just turned around, walked to the sink, and threw up. Mark refused to speak. He sat at the edge of our bed that night, silent, staring at the floor as if the right words would rise from the carpet. I pressed him, begged him, even threatened to leave if he didn't tell me who she was. His only answer was, "You wouldn't understand." The next morning, I made a decision. If he wouldn't give me the truth, I'd find it myself. I called my best friend Mia, who worked at the county records office. She owed me a favor, or maybe just sensed the panic in my voice. I sent her the photo of the woman. A few hours later, she called back, her voice unusually tense. "Her name is Elisa Carter," Mia said, "and you're not going to like this." I braced myself. She was Mark's wife, legally, still is actually. My knees buckled. "What?" "They got married in 2009. No divorce ever filed. She disappeared in 2015. Police opened a missing person case, but it went cold. No leads, no body, nothing." I couldn't breathe. "You're saying I'm the other woman?" Mia hesitated. "Technically, you're his second wife, But if he never divorced her, then our marriage isn't even real, I finished for her. I dropped the phone. I walked to the mirror and stared at myself. The ring on my finger, the family photos on the walls, the last name I'd taken with pride. It was all built on a lie. That night, I waited for Mark to come home. When he walked in, I held up a printed copy of Elisa's marriage license. He didn't deny it. He didn't even look surprised. I thought she was dead, he muttered. You thought? I snapped. You never checked? Never reported anything? I did. But the police said they couldn't do much without evidence. She had, issues, mental health problems. She ran off once before, years ago. I stepped back. Did you even try to find her? Or was it just easier to replace her with me? He didn't answer. That night, I sat in Lily's room while she slept, brushing her hair with shaking hands. All I could see now was the resemblance, the shape of her face, the softness in her eyes. The woman on the street wasn't just some forgotten figure from Mark's past. She was Lily's mother. Or could she be? I needed to know the truth, not just for me, but for Lily. If Mark wouldn't tell me, Elisa would. And this time I wasn't going to wait behind the blinds. I found her again under the same overpass, shivering beneath a threadbare blanket, her hands wrapped around a half-empty coffee cup, like it held the last warmth on earth. Elisa, I said softly. She flinched at her name. Her eyes darted up, wild at first, then clouded with confusion. Do I know you? I knelt beside her. No, but I know you. I handed her a bag, clean clothes, a sandwich, a bottle of water. She stared at it like it was a trick. You don't have to be afraid, I whispered. I just want to talk. She hesitated, then took the bag. Her fingers trembled as she pulled the sandwich out. She ate in silence, eyes never leaving mine. Her face was weathered, but under the grime I saw it clearly now. Lily's face. Older, worn, but unmistakable. Do you have a place to go? I asked. She shook her head. My husband, Mark, I said slowly. Do you remember him? Her eyes changed. For a moment her body stiffened. Then she laughed. Dry, hollow, bitter. Mark! Of course I do. He said he'd come back for me. What happened? I asked. She looked away. There was an accident. I fell. Hit my head. I was in some facility. I didn't remember anything at first, just pieces. When I got out, he was gone. I felt my stomach drop. You were in a mental hospital? She nodded. They called him, I know they did, but no one came. The silence between us thickened. And then, I made the decision. Come with me, I said. She blinked. What? You need warmth, food, a shower, just one night. I took her hand. Mark nearly fainted when he saw me walk in with her. Oh, what the hell are you doing? He hissed. She's staying here, tonight, I said, with a calm I didn't feel. Elisa stood behind me, wide-eyed, taking in the house like it was a dream she once had and had forgotten. Her gaze landed on the mantel, photos of Lily, of me, of us. And then Lily walked in. Mommy, who's that? She asked. Elisa dropped the cup she was holding. It shattered on the floor. Her eyes welled up with tears. That's my daughter, she whispered, her voice cracking. Lily looked confused, then turned to me. Mommy! I knelt beside her. It's okay, baby. Elisa slowly reached out, tears falling freely now. Her name was supposed to be Grace, she whispered. That's what I wanted to name her. Mark stepped forward, voice shaking. She doesn't know you. You don't get to decide that anymore, I said sharply. Elisa fell to her knees, clutching her chest as if her heart might burst. I thought she was dead. No, I whispered, you were the one who was buried. Mark didn't sleep that night. He sat in the living room, back hunched, hands trembling, as if the weight of everything he'd hidden had finally crushed him. I stayed up too, on the couch, with Elisa sleeping in the guest room. The house felt like it was holding its breath. At dawn, Mark spoke. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he said. I didn't answer. She wasn't supposed to come back. I turned to him cold. So you just erased her? He looked at me with eyes full of something between shame and fear. She hit her head. The doctors said she had severe memory loss. They couldn't reach any family. They reached out to me. I told them not to contact anyone else. I didn't want the attention. I was scared. You were scared, so you committed fraud? I thought she was gone. I mean, mentally. She couldn't speak clearly, didn't know who she was. They said it might take years or never. And I was alone. I waited for months. I visited her a few times. Then I stopped. You stopped? I said, almost choking on the words. You abandoned her. Mark rubbed his face. I didn't know what else to do. I met you a year later. You brought me back to life. I stood up. You used me. He shook his head quickly. No, I loved you. I still do. I thought Elisa was gone forever. The doctors wouldn't say it, but I could tell they didn't expect her to recover. So instead of divorcing her properly, you faked her death. He went pale. How did you do it? I asked, heart pounding. He swallowed. I forged a death certificate. I had access through a buddy at a funeral home. No body, no obituary, just paperwork. I figured no one would dig. I stared at him, stunned. And Lily? Did you know she was... He nodded slowly. She was conceived before Elisa's accident, but I didn't find out she was pregnant until after. When the hospital confirmed it, I filed to be the sole guardian and transferred the record. I gave her a new name, a new birth certificate, made it all legal. My knees buckled. He had stolen a life. He had stolen too. I couldn't breathe. She's not mine. Yes, she is, Mark said quickly. You raised her, loved her. She knows no one else. I looked at him with something deeper than rage. She has another mother, one you tried to bury. Behind us, the hallway creaked. Elisa stood there, eyes red, hands clenched at her sides. She'd heard everything, and for the first time, she didn't look broken. She looked ready to fight. The next morning, Elisa and I sat in the kitchen, side by side. Not as enemies, not even as strangers. Just two women picking through the wreckage of the same man. I want justice, she said quietly, and she deserved it. With her consent, I called a lawyer. A good one. Someone who specialized in family law and fraud. We laid everything out. The fake death certificate, the falsified guardianship of Lily, the stolen assets. Elisa's mental health records confirmed Mark had full knowledge of her condition and location at the time of her institutionalization. The lawyer's voice was cold. He's facing prison time, multiple charges, fraud, identity theft, perjury, possibly even custodial interference. Part of me was still in shock. The man I had married, the father of my daughter, was a criminal. Not just in action, but in intention. He had crafted a life out of deception. Later that week, I went to the bank to check our joint accounts. My name was there. So was Elisa's. Confused, I asked the teller to clarify. She leaned in, whispering, "These accounts were originally opened under Elisa Carter's name. Your husband added you as a secondary after filing for guardianship over her estate." I felt sick. All these years, the house, the savings, even Lily's college fund. It wasn't built from our hard work. It was Elisa's inheritance. Money her parents had left her before they passed. Mark had taken it all when she was incapacitated and legally unresponsive. I walked out of that bank feeling like I was walking on air that could collapse beneath me at any second. That night I confronted him. He didn't deny it. "I just wanted a fresh start," he said. "I thought if I could build something better, it would erase everything I did." "You can't build love on a grave, Mark," I whispered. He tried to plead with me, but I had already filed a restraining order. The lawyer had begun the process to freeze all accounts and recover assets under Elisa's name. She was pressing criminal charges. Mark was served papers the next morning. He screamed, cursed, begged me to reconsider. Lily watched it all from the stairs, silent, confused. I held her tight that night and told her something no mother wants to say. "Daddy made some really bad choices, and now we have to make some hard ones." She didn't cry. She just asked, "Is that lady still my mommy too?" I paused. "She's the one who gave birth to you. But you have two mommies now if you want." Lily nodded once, and in that moment I knew. Mark may have shattered our lives. But he hadn't destroyed us. We were still standing, and for the first time, we were standing together. The days that followed were heavy with silence. Mark was gone, living in a motel somewhere while his court date loomed. The house felt quieter without him. Not empty, just different. The air didn't feel so tight around my lungs. Elisa stayed in the guest room. She barely spoke. She helped with dishes, folded laundry, sat quietly with Lily when she watched cartoons. There were no demands, no bitterness, only a quiet ache that clung to her like a second skin. One night I found her in Lily's room. Lily had fallen asleep on her shoulder, thumb tucked in her mouth. "She doesn't know me," Elisa said softly, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "But I love her like I never stopped." I swallowed. "You don't have to disappear again. We can figure something out. Maybe shared custody or—" Elisa shook her head. "I'm not here to take her from you. She knows you as her mother. That bond. You built it. I'd never rip that away." Tears welled up in my eyes. "But she's yours." "She's ours," Elisa said. "I gave birth to her. You raised her. We both fought for her in different ways." She stood up, looked me in the eyes. "I don't want the house. I don't want the money. I want peace. For her, for me, and maybe, if you'll let me, for us." I broke. All the anger, the fear, the betrayal. It came crashing down in sobs that shook my whole body. She held me, and I held her. Two mothers, two survivors, two women who had been lied to, used, erased, by the same man. We cried for what we had lost. But more than that, we cried for what we could still protect. Later that week, Elisa's lawyer called. She told him she didn't want to press for full custody or restitution, only for legal acknowledgement of her identity and the right to visit her daughter. The court accepted it. Mark's charges moved forward without her testimony. My own statement and the forged documents were enough to seal his fate. We went to the park together the next weekend, just me, Elisa, and Lily. Strangers watched us, probably wondering who we were. But we didn't care. Lily held both our hands, and then she said something that caught me off guard. "You're both my mummies, right?" I nodded, tears rising again. "Yes, baby," I said. "You're lucky like that." Elisa smiled, her fingers tightening gently around mine. It wasn't the life either of us had imagined. But it was real, and it was ours. The courtroom was silent as Mark stood before the judge, his hands shaking, his voice barely above a whisper. He pled guilty to multiple charges: fraud, identity theft, falsifying public documents. The sentence was swift. 7 years in federal prison, no parole. He didn't look at me, or at Elisa, not once. But I looked at him, really looked. For the first time I didn't see my husband. I saw a man who had built a life out of fear, control, and lies, and lost it all. The judge turned to Elisa and me. "Do you wish to make a statement?" I stood up. My heart was racing, but my voice was clear. "You don't just betray one person when you lie like that. You tear down entire lives. But we're still here. We survived, and we won't be silent." Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Elisa grabbed my hand before I could walk into the chaos. "Let's go home," she said, and for the first time in months, that word, home, meant something again. Back at the house, I took down the family portraits. Not in anger, but in truth. I put up new ones. Photos of Lily with both her mothers, candid moments of healing. Elisa teaching her how to braid, me tying her soccer shoes, the three of us baking cookies in pajamas. Later that week, I met with my lawyer to settle the property issues. I told him I wanted half the house signed over to Elisa. He blinked. "You sure?" "She's not demanding it." "She won't ask, but she deserves it," I said. "She was this home before I ever was." When I told Elisa, she cried. "I don't want anything from him," she said. "You're not taking it from him," I replied. "You're taking it back." It wasn't just about bricks and walls. It was about dignity, about rewriting the story we had been forced into. We repainted the house, got rid of Mark's old leather recliner. Elisa turned the study into a small art studio. I started journaling again. We laughed more than I thought possible. Lily began calling Elisa Mama Lissy. She never asked why she had two moms, just accepted it, the way children do when love is louder than confusion. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Elisa whispered, "Do you think we'll ever stop hurting?" I thought about it, then shook my head. "But I think we'll hurt less because now we're not alone." She smiled, and I realized we weren't just surviving anymore. We were living together. People often ask me how I managed to forgive. The truth is, I didn't do it all at once. Forgiveness didn't arrive like a sunrise. It came slowly, like the tide, gentle, painful, and sometimes pulling me under before it brought me to shore. I used to believe betrayal was the end of everything, but it wasn't. It was the beginning of something else entirely. Elisa and I never set out to become a family. We were thrown together by one man's lies. And yet, in the wreckage, we found something neither of us expected. Grace. Not just for each other, but for ourselves. Our home isn't perfect. Some mornings are quiet. Some nights we cry. But in between, there's laughter, stories, inside jokes, and Lily's messy drawings taped to every wall. Mark is a name we no longer say out loud. Not because we hate him, because we've outgrown him. Now, when I look at Elisa, I don't see a past rival. I see a sister, a mother, a survivor. And when Lily runs into our arms screaming, "Mommies," with joy, I know this isn't the life I planned, but it's the life I was meant to find.